The pulsar network's humming corridors echoed with quiet urgency as technicians scanned wave after wave of interstellar traffic. On any other day, the faint crackle of faint signals trade manifests, exploration logs, diplomatic pleasantries blended into a predictable pattern. But today, anomaly detectors flared. Somewhere beyond the fringe of mapped space, a voice trembled in desperation. "We are besieged. We beg your aid. Please." The message had a raw, ragged quality, as though transmitted through static, through tears. It repeated on every frequency, subspace, graviton, even the archaic moan channels once thought obsolete. The call for help came from Niver, a lush green jewel orbiting twin stars. 30 light-years from Sol, its people sick-slimmed, soft-hued, and fiercely communal had never sent distress beyond their own cluster. And yet, their plea pulsed through human networks like a distress beacon in the night sky. On Luna's highest spire, the Council of 12 assembled in ceremonial robes and stiff collars. The grand chamber's domed ceiling a swirl of projected constellations. Ambassador Selim Jara of the Outer Colonies opened the emergency session. His voice was calm but carried the weight of dread. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, "the Council has received a continuous distress signal from Niver. All orbital defenses are offline. Ground forces report city-scale devastation. No known species in that region could match these weapons." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Admiral Rena Ortega, whose fleet patrolled the Venusian trenches, spoke next. Her tone was clipped, professional shock. "Scans show advanced phase shift blasters capable of penetrating even the heaviest hull plating. Ground sensors detect a bioorganic agent ravaging the planet's surface. The invaders, we have no data on them." Archivist Lucien Voss tapped screens, overlaying Niverian star charts with humanity's colonial borders. "They lie beyond the frontier of our xenographic surveys. No trade routes, no embassies, no record of invaders or allies in the region." He let that sink in before adding, "Time is against them, for the first time in centuries." Earth faced an appeal it could neither ignore nor easily address. The Republic's resources were stretched across dozens of star systems. Its fleets engaged in quelling pirate leagues in the outer belt, mediating disputes on Thera Prime, and escorting diplomatic envoys to the Orion expanse. Yet the signal continued, raw, plaintive, and impossible to overlook. Arguments spiraled through debates about strategy, dispatch the newest dreadnoughts, mobilize the peacekeeper brigades, send envoys with humanitarian aid. But each option faltered under its own weight, too slow, too diplomatic, too risky. And then, Vice Chancellor Darian Ma disclosed classified intelligence that stunned the chamber into silence. "We have one resource uniquely suited for this crisis," he said. "Our top threats, the renegades, the exiles, the criminals, those who operate outside the boundaries of conventional warfare. They are unorthodox, unpredictable, and capable of striking where others cannot." Seconds ticked by as the implications settled in. The Council's hall, once a bastion of unity, became a theater of moral conflict. Were they willing to entrust the galaxy's fate to humanity's darkest potential? Grand Chancellor Sonia DuPont held up a hand, forestalling further dissent. Her silver-threaded hair caught the light of distant star maps. "We stand at a crossroads. If Niver falls, the unknown aggressors might turn toward human space. Let us not pretend diplomacy alone will suffice. We lack data about the enemy's numbers, their technology, their goals. We need a surgical strike and someone bold enough to carry it out." There it was, the unspoken truth. Diplomats, admirals, and scholars all knew it. Conventional forces, bound by doctrine and protocol, would likely be outmaneuvered by an adversary who played by no rules. But the convicts, the dissidents, the outcasts, they thrived in chaos. Thus was born Task Force Leviathan, an unprecedented gambit, 5 high-risk starships crewed by humanity's most notorious individuals, each selected for a specific talent honed in the shadows of legality. The Eclipse, flagship of the squadron, commanded by General Astra Cortez, once celebrated as the Republic's most decorated fleet admiral. She led the Vanguard Rebellion before her coup attempt. Iron-willed and tactical genius, she accepted the mission in exchange for her pardon's final activation. Because no one could marshal a hardened unit quite like her, the Chimera, under Dr. Mira Liang, a cybernetic prodigy exiled for her unsanctioned experiments on sentient eyes. Brilliant, unpredictable. She could hijack any system if only her neural implants didn't occasionally rebel against her own. Mind, the Revenant, manned by remnants of the Cyclone Reavers, a pirate collective that decimated cargo convoys for sport. Their demoralizing guerrilla tactics and electromagnetic pulse weaponry made them perfect for sowing chaos among an occupying force. The Pandora, a medical frigate retrofitted for biohazard containment, bearing Anya Sedith, chief virologist of the infamous BioWeave Consortium. Her moral compass had skewed in service to profit until now. She carried vials of counteragents designed for the deadliest plagues. The Valkyria, a stealth scout captained by Raphael Sheikh Nunes, thief, smuggler, and infiltration specialist. His genetically engineered dermal gels allowed him to mimic any human form, bypass systems, and vanish without a trace. By the time the Leviathan convoy launched from lunar docks, Earth's politicos had forged uneasy alliances and written legal frameworks unprecedented in scope. Each captain signed a treaty coded in zirconium. Succeed, and your slate is wiped clean. Fail, and you forfeit life itself. As the convoy slipped through lunar orbit, the luminous curve of Earth receded behind them. Sensors switched to long range, mapping the treacherous route across the void. No passenger liners, no supply freighters, only the echo of possibility and the cold promise of violence. In the Eclipse's command bridge, Cortez surveyed her assembled lieutenants. Data streams coalesced into a holo map of Niver. Twin suns cast turquoise light on convulsing storm fronts below. She turned, her cape trailing like a shadow across the polished deck. Listen carefully, she said, voice low but precise. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to act where others can't. Marauders, hackers, scientists, every one of you can tip the balance. Light your charges, break their lines, cure the plague, whatever it takes. Liang's mechanical. I flickered as she interfaced with the Chimera's comm grid. I'll slip past their firewalls and blind their sensors. But I need at least 3 minutes to initiate the override. Driss, leader of the Reavers, cracked a grin beneath his braided scalp cords. They won't know what hit them until their shields fold like paper. Sedith, clad in a soft blue biosuit, flexed her gloved fingers. I've prepared anti-serum doses calibrated for every major Nivarian physiological variant. Once we breach the well, we inject, and we halt the infection. Shade materialized from the corridor's recessed shadows, tall and lithe. I'll find their council chamber, extract whoever's still alive. Their leadership contains data we need. Cortez nodded once, sharply. Then we move. Finally, as the convoy holstered into warp conduits, a single thought bound them together. They were refugees of Earth's own making, sent to save another world. And for once, their infamy was humanity's greatest weapon. As subspace shimmered around them and stars melted into streaks of light, each captain understood the unspoken oath they shared. They would make this gamble pay off or they would die. Trying. Beyond the void lay Niver, and with it, the fragile hope that even the galaxy's darkest threats could kindle a spark of salvation. The Leviathan convoy dropped out of warp like a stone hitting water, sudden, violent, rippling through Niver's upper atmosphere. Electric storms crackled around them in jagged violet arcs, as if the planet itself rejected their rival. Alarm klaxons blared through each ship, and astrogators wrestled their consoles to stabilize attitude and thrust. On the Eclipse's bridge, General Astra Cortez's steely gaze never wavered. Below her, the surface of Niver twisted in and out of sensor lock, fractured cities half buried by ash, rivers swollen with mud, fields of bioluminescent spores shimmering red in the gloom. No welcoming committee, only devastation. Status report, Cortez ordered, voice calm but cold. Lieutenant Ree, her comms officer, tapped a datapad. Orbital defenses offline. To combat satellites drift inert. Atmospheric entry zones narrowed by active storm ceilings fluctuating between 1,500 and 900 meters. Cortez nodded. We stick to Valley Corridor Charlie 2. Jump shuttles to drop pods. Stick to low thermal signature. Shorelines of ash. Half a dozen black jump ships peeled away from the Eclipse's docking bay. Their heat-dampening hulls glowed faintly as they pierced the violet clouds. In the lead craft, Shade sat strapped in a corner console, helmet off, a rare absence of stealth. He studied the holomap etched above the viewport, murmuring coordinates to himself. "Valley turns due east at 6 clicks," he said. "Stick to the ridge line, minimal ground radar coverage." Behind him, crackling static signaled Dr. Mira Liang's neural uplink. Her pale fingers hovered over a control cluster implanted in her palms. "I'll blind their orbital trackers. On approach, get ready to brace for microbursts. Local meteorology's unpredictable." Her cybernetic eye glowed dimly as she tapped subroutines, siphoning their digital signature into a null loop dot as the last shuttles dove below the storm layer. The planet's surface loomed, a panorama of ruin. Towers stood shredded like paper. Highways had buckled into rivers of concrete. Niver's air was thick with ash that shimmered auburn in the glow of subterranean fires. Shade exhaled, voice low. If anyone ever doubted the severity, this is worse than the archives said. First footsteps. Shuttles landed with muted thuds in a cratered plain once lush with grasslands. Ramp doors dropped, and Cortez's Marines poured into the haze. Weapons raised but disciplined, their boots crunched on glassy granules of ash. Sulfuric winds stung exposed skin. Cortez led the descent, armored in her black and silver exoshal. Her gaze swept the broken horizon. Sweep the perimeter. Shield teams, mark safe zones. Hackers, prepare comm burrows. I want total coverage in 15 minutes. Driss, leader of the Cyclone Reaver survivors, sprang forward with a grin splitting his scarred face. His crew fired electromagnetic pulse grenades into collapsed power pylons. Sparks danced, then died, plunging swaths of ruins into darkness. The sudden blackness hid their approach, but also concealed hidden dangers. Anya Sedith emerged next, clad in pale blue biohazard gear. She knelt by a smoldering creek, dropping vials of luminous green tracer into the water. "Phytoplanktons. Mutated," she muttered, scanning with a handheld spectrometer. "Spore counts beyond containment thresholds. This isn't a natural outbreak, it's engineered." Her eyes flicked back to Cortez. "We'll need to locate ground zero before dawn. Otherwise, these tracers will help nothing." Shade melted into the shadows, helmet's adaptive camouflage flickering off. He slipped between collapsed walls toward distant screams. Niverian survivors. His mission, gather intelligence from the heart of chaos. Ghosts of the fallen Cortez's Marines established a perimeter around an abandoned aerodrome. Scanners pinged hundreds of life signatures. Aliens, human refugees, ghost-like and trembling. Without orders, Cortez knelt beside a shivering Niverian woman curled against a rusted fuselage. "Easy," Cortez soothed, offering ration bars. "We're here to help." The woman's 6 arms shivered as she accepted the food, her eyes brimming with tears. A sudden flare of bioluminescence from across the tarmac drew everyone's attention. Figures staggered through the ash limb, elongated, eyes phosphorescent with rage. Sedith's calm crackled. "Plague mutations, they're evolving fast. These aren't just sick, they're weapons now." Marines opened fire with stun rounds, but the creatures advanced recklessly, undeterred. Driss barked orders. "EMP nets deploy now." His team tossed spheres that crackled in midair, erupting in electromagnetic pulses. The mutants convulsed, dropping like rag dolls. Yet even in deactivation, their bodies pulsed with red spores that drifted on the wind. Coating boots and gear, Liang's voice cut through the haze. Hazmat seals closing. Hatches thudded shut on the jump ships, automated air scrubbers. Grown to life, cleansing the spores but only inside the perimeter. Outside, the wind carried them deeper into the valley, infiltration and insight as darkness deepened. Shade navigated the ruined grid toward an intact subterranean bunker marked on Niver's schematics. As Council archives, he bypassed, cracked locks with surgical precision, slipping inside to find piles of scorched data crystals. Access panels flickered, waiting for his dermal interface. Moments later, data poured into his HUD, siege plans, orbital strike coordinates. A single name repeated on every record: Rudhran Kallax. The unknown aggressor directing the assault from a hidden command ship. Shade felt a surge of exhilaration. They had a target, down in the aerodrome. Cortez convened a tactical overlay around a flickering holomap. "We hit to orbital guns at dawn," she said, then stormed the well of voices. "Facility at ground zero, protect Seth at all costs." Driss laughed, cracks of white in his teeth. "You need muscle for orbital guns. We'll handle that." He slapped a heavy artillery launcher onto his shoulder. "Then you'll need tequila, lots of it." Seth frowned. "Please, brainstorm. Spares for antimatter triggers. I can't apply bioweave tech without stable power." Her fingers drummed on her tablet. Liang leaned back, cybernetic eye swirling. "I'll have their defense grid down in 60 seconds. But once we're inside, it's all yours, Cortez." Cortez permitted herself a brief smile. This motley crew might just pull it off. "Rest while you can. We move in 40 minutes. The calm before the storm night deepened to obsidian. Winds whispered through shattered hulls. Survivors huddled in burned-out hangars, Nivarians and humans alike, united by terror. Flame-lit vigil fires fought back the darkness, dancing across the ruins. Liang sat alone outside her shuttle, neon sepses glowing beneath her skin as she ran code through her mind. Driss sharpened his blade with a stone, humming a guttural tune. Seth reviewed her biodossiers under a flickering lamp. Shade returned with data modules, expression unreadable behind his visor. Cortez watched them all, standing on the airstrip under a canopy of trembling stars. She unstrapped her helmet, letting the night air kiss her face. The weight of command settled on her shoulders, heavier than any EXO shell dot in the distance. Lightning blue bolts split the sky. Somewhere, the enemy's orbital guns trained on them. "Waiting." Cortez's comm crackled. "All teams, report in." One by one, voices confirmed readiness. In that moment, the Leviathan convoy was more than a fleet of criminals. It was humanity's sharpest blade. Poised against oblivion, to victory, she whispered, fist raised. "As long as we survive to drink to it," Driss replied, grinning. In the dark, and when the first dawn broke over Niver, it would rise on a battlefield crafted by Earth's most dangerous and perhaps its bravest. The convective dawn on Niver was a bruised purple when the Leviathan convoy struck its first blow. From the ruined runway, Cortez and her captains watched the violet sky, anticipation crackling like static in their bones. Below them, two orbital gun platforms floated dead in their orbits, victims of Liang's silent assault. The Chimera's hacking pulse had seeped through enemy firewalls like acid, shutting down primary systems faster than the defenders could react. "Targets are blind," Liang reported, voice steady even as her enhanced ocular implant glowed beneath her hood. "You have a 5-minute window before their backup reroutes." Cortez nodded sharply. "Driss, Revenant teams your move." The initial strike Driss's Reavers moved like specters across the cracked tarmac. They hefted graviton pulse launchers and EMP net cannons, their patched-together armor humming with stolen power cells. At Driss's signal, they unleashed a hail of nets that drifted up to the gun platforms. Electric arcs danced across the superstructure, frying guidance arrays and collapsing mock asteroid shields. "Beautiful chaos," Driss whispered, eyes alight with fanatic glee, then barked, "Reload and prepare for exfil." Above them, the first of the platforms erupted in a silent nova. Superheated railguns sheared through their own structure, tearing debris into the dawn. Energy shards rained toward the valley, turning ash clouds into a shifting mosaic of embers. Cortez's Marines seized the moment. They poured into hangars and maintenance bays, planting scram charges on every remaining turret. Seth followed them every step, her biosensors strained to detect mutated spores in the air. Charges set, Cortez confirmed over comms. "Move to extraction point Echo 7. But before the squad could exfiltrate, the valley convulsed. The counterstreak of throbbing pulse tore through the ash. The platforms had rebooted on an emergency loop. Automated defenses phase-shifted. Drones immune to EMP sprang to life. The drones weaved through missile trails like metallic hornets, firing crystalline energy bolts that punched through Cortez's exotial plating. "Fall back. Fall back." Cortez threw her weight behind retreating Marines, shielding them from lethal volleys. Liang's calm link crackled with panicked code. "They've hardened the cores. I can't breach their subroutines, rerouting power to manual controls." As metal screamed and ash danced in the air, A new horror blossomed on the horizon, masses of plague mutants, every sinew twisted and lit from within by bioluminescent veins. Their phosphorescent eyes glowed like embers as they poured from shattered bunkers. An undulating tide of weaponized disease. Seth's voice trembled. They're evolving on the fly. These mutations, they're not random, they're tactical. Marines, formed a firing line, but the creatures advanced heedless of bullets. Their claws dripped with corrosive ichor that sizzled on contact with ground gear. Driss hurled an EMP grenade at their feet. The mutants convulsed, but their bodies fractured and sprouted new limbs, each pulsing with red spores that burst into the wind shade. Cloaked in adaptive gel, darted among the chaos, yanking wounded Nivarians to safety. He moved like a ghost until a drone blaster bolt caught him full in the chest, sending him sprawling across the ash. His adaptive mesh sputtered, the camouflage failing. For a moment, he lay still, holographic HUD flickering. No. Cortez roared, racing across the tarmac. She scooped him up as another energy bolt slammed into the ground where he'd lain. Shade's eyes fluttered open, pain etched on his features. Go, he rasped. Finish the mission. She shoved him into a makeshift evac pod. We're not leaving you here. He managed a wry smile. You will. You have to. Get to the well. The pod's bulkhead seal hissed shut. Cortez slammed a fist against the viewport, but the convoy's shuttles rose at Liang's command brains over brawn even in retreat. Blood in the bunker. They regrouped in the subterranean bunker that once housed Niver's planetary defense. Core, fluorescent lights flickered over scorch marks and ash-stained walls. Survivors, human and alien alike, huddled in the corners, wide-eyed and trembling. Cortez stalked to the center of the cavernous room. Report. Liang's fingers trembled as she pulled the Chimera's datapad into view. They've locked down the well's access grid. I can't override until I get boots on the ground. Physical interface required. Driss spat on the floor. We almost had them. Then your code stalled. Because they anticipated the hack. Cortez snapped. Whoever is running this siege has inside intel. Seth leaned against a support beam. Bioscanner clutched like a lifeline. The plague isn't just mutating, it's learning. Those creatures knew exactly how to bypass EMPs. She shook her head. BioWeave didn't program this. It's adaptive, sentient. Silence swallowed the chamber. Cortez's eyes swept her team. The hacker, the pirate, the scientist, the thief lost above. Rudran Kallax, she said finally. Shade's intel points to him. He's commanding from a hidden flagship somewhere in orbit. Driss laughed, a short bark. So we chase ghosts in the stars, or we carve our way to the well and end this plague. You heard Seth, Cortez replied. We can't win from here. We go to ground zero, secure the well. Interface directly, purge the pathogen's source code. Then we hunt Kallax. A growl rumbled through the bunker as alien survivors rose, 6 arms folding in solemn unity. One stepped forward, glowing eyes moist. You carry our fate in your hands, humans. Betray us, and we are all lost. Then we won't betray you, Cortez said softly, meeting the alien's gaze. We'll see this through together. Fractures and forgivenesses plans formed in hushed tones. Tension snapped like a fraying cable. Driss confronted Seth near a row of supply lockers. Your anti-serum, did you really think injecting that into the well would solve anything? You could kill us all. Her voice was ice. Better us than them. You'd let this plague spread to Earth for a thrill, wouldn't you? He sneered. And you'd trade Niver's blood for corporate glory. We're all animals wearing uniforms, DOC. They squared off, but Cortez's rival stilled the air. Enough, she commanded. If you to tear yourselves apart, the enemy wins. Focus on the mission. Driss spat again, this time at Cortez's boots. For a heartbeat, violence hung in the air. Then he strode away, shoulders rigid. Seth exhaled, slumping against the wall. Liang slipped an arm around Seth's shoulders. We'll make it right, she murmured. Just live to see dawn. Seth met her gaze, eyes weary but determined. We have to, she said, for Shade. A sacrifice in the halls of data as the team rallied for the final push. Cortez realized one soul was missing. She punched a code into the comms. Shade, status. Static answered, then his voice crackled through. At Council Archives, I found the override codes for the Wells core interface. I can open a back door. Get back here. Cortez ordered. We're moving on your location. His tone held a finality that froze her. No. I'll need 10 minutes. It's too risky to retrace my steps. By then, you'll be at ground zero. 10 minutes. He cut her off. It's the only way. Then static. Then silence. Cortez's fist slammed the console. He's sacrificing himself. Liang placed a hand on her arm. He knew the risk. Cortez breathed out. Grief and rage intermingling. Then we make his sacrifice count. As they gathered weapons and donned hazmat suits, the bunker's speakers crackled with a final message from Shade. Trust no one. Trust only the well. His words faded into static, leaving a hollow promise of betrayal and hope entwined in the ash-soaked corridors. Earth's most dangerous converged beneath Niver's broken surface, ready to face a sentient plague, a hidden tyrant, and the weight of their own sins. And in the darkness, Shade's last light guided them toward a reckoning that would decide not only Niver's fate, but the future of every world touched by human hands. The corridors beneath Niver's shattered surface thrummed with muffled tremors. As the Leviathan convoy's survivors edged toward the well of voices, Cortez led the way, pulse rifle cradled against her armor. Behind her, Driss slung a reconfigured graviton launcher, Seth clutched a biohazard satchel, and Liang's cybernetic eye glowed faintly in the gloom. Above it all, the memory of Shade's final transmission hung in the stale air. Trust only the well. Into the Koreth-sealed vault door loomed before them an immense, crystalline slab etched with alien glyphs that pulsed in corrosive red light. Cortez laid a gauntleted hand against its surface. The glyphs rippled beneath her touch. Override codes, she murmured into her calm. Now or never. Liang's fingers danced over a portable holo keypad. Sparks of neon circuitry sparked across the door as she forced the encryption to yield. Every second was agony. Alarms echoed faintly from overhead. The enemy's automated sentinels clawing toward them through sealed blast hatches. At last, the glyphs faded to ice blue. The door slid open with a groan of ancient hydraulics, revealing a vast chamber. At its center rose the well of voices, a towering crystal column, veins of bioluminescent data flowing like living starlight. Around it, floating platforms held dormant interface modules, orbital relays, and subdermal probes, all waiting to be activated. Seth stepped forward, unpacking slender injector wands and vials of anti-serum. We neutralize the plague at its source, she announced, voice taut. I'll need direct access to the neural data stream. Driss dropped to one knee, surveying the chamber's edges. Clear the perimeter. No ambush this time. He flicked a switch on his launcher, now humming with ionic detonation charges. Cortez spread her squad in a defensive ring. Liang, keep us connected. Seth, you're on point. Confronting Calaxis, Seth approached the well. A sudden chorus of disembodied voices filled the chamber, chanting in a language that shimmered between synthetic resonance and organic tremor. The crystal's veins pulsed faster. A holo figure materialized above the well, Rudhran Calax in violet-lit clarity. His eyes were pools of nihilistic purpose. Fools, he intoned. Did you think Earth's pariahs could unravel my design? He raised both arms. Energy tendrils lanced from his hands, striking the platform where Seth knelt. Cortez dove forward, intercepting the blast with her shields. Seth tumbled aside. Vials clattering, but intact. Driss fired a graviton shot that tore through Calax's projection, fracturing it into shards of light. Liang's voice crackled urgently. He's anchoring himself through the well's neural node. I can't sever the link from here. I need to force a manual disengagement. Seth, inject when you can, Cortez urged, heart pounding. Seth rose and plunged two wands into the well's translucent cortex. Bioweave anti-serum full spectrum, she cried, and pressed plungers. Green tracers chased through the crystal's veins, clashing with red data streams in a blossoming storm of color. The well shuddered. Data veins convulsed, then snapped, flares erupting in every direction. Calax's holo face twisted in fury and pain. No, this is my genesis. He shrieked as his form fragmented. A deafening pulse exploded outward. Cortez's shields glowed white-hot. Driss's boots left scorch marks on the floor. Liang's calm link surged with feedback, but she held on, rerouting the well's memory cache into a quarantine loop. Then, silence. Purging the plague when Cortez opened her eyes, the chamber was calm. The well of voices stood still, its veins, now a peaceful Cerulean glow. Seteth slumped against the crystal, breathing hard. Driss knelt beside her, offering a biohazard cloth. Liang tapped her wrist. Calm. I've isolated Kalax's core directives and purged them from the system. The plague's genetic code is quarantine, no further mutations. A soft chorus drifted through the well's speaker network, once ominous, now melodic. We are free. Gratitude to you humans. Alarms blared elsewhere. Cortez checked her HUD. Orbital sensors flickered back online. Enemy ships in high orbit, their weapons offline, floated helplessly. The path to Niver's defense satellites lay open at last. A world reborn above ground. Sunrise fractured through violet clouds, revealing survivors emerging from ruins. Niver's citizens, gaunt with weeks of terror, stopped to stare as the convoy's repaired drones booted up the battered orbital guns. Marines in Cortez's squad raised their rifles in salute. Driss grinned and pumped a fist. Seteth stepped onto the blood-stained tarmac, scanning the horizon. Biohazard levels falling, air scrubbers clearing the spores. Even now, she inhaled the clean air. Closing her eyes, Liang joined her, helmet off for the first time. We saved them. Aren't you curious? Seteth asked. What Earth will do when they learn we unleashed this plague elsewhere? Liang shrugged, eyes wistful. Let them ask Cortez. Cortez emerged from the Eclipse's docking ramp, her exoshell streaked with ash. She studied Niver's battered skyline, then turned to her crew. We came to kill a threat, she said quietly, but we left something stronger, hope. A new covenant under the healing sun. Niver's council of voices convened at the heart of the aerodrome. Aliens laid woven garlands of luminescent petals across the Marines' boots. Humans offered Earth's flags as banners of solidarity. In the center, a new statute inscribed on crystalline tablets proclaimed an alliance, bound by blood and sacrifice. Niver and Earth shall stand as guardians of life and keepers of galactic peace. As ambassadors signed the treaty, Cortez watched from the edge of the crowd. Driss and Seteth stood side by side, sharing a weary smile. Liang's ocular implant reflected the ceremony's glow, and among the Niverians, Shade's adaptive gel generator, recovered from the council archives, rested as an eternal reminder of the thief who gave his life to unlock salvation. When at last the convoy prepared to depart, Niver's skyports thrummed with activity. Cortez and her captains boarded their ships, greeted by cheers from Niver's people. Messages streamed in from Earth. Congratulations. Pardons enacted. Heroes declared. But Cortez held up a hand. We returned as criminals, she said over the comm, but we leave as champions, not for what we were, but for what we chose to become. As the Leviathan convoy slipped into warp once more, new stars beckoned on the horizon. The galaxy would speak of the day when Earth sent its greatest threats and they became its brightest hope. And so, amid the quiet hum of engines and the promise of countless worlds beyond, humanity's most notorious found redemption in the light of Niver's new dawn.